Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Too Old to Die Young, Season 1, Episode 1. Well, just Episode 1. This is the mini, right? This isn't...
As far as we know, I don't recall.
It doesn't seem like something that is planned to have more than one season.
I mean, there's an assumption based on who's involved that it's a limited series, but I don't recall the official statement saying that. But
Well, Episode 1. That said, the episode titles themselves have got numbers on them, so I'll just say Too Old to Die Young, Volume 1, The Devil. So that's what we're going to talk about. We'll start spoiler free though, because it is a first episode, and we always do that with first episodes. We'll warn you in the middle before we go to spoilers. But this is the Nicolas Winding Refn directed series. He's directing all 10 episodes of this. It is written by Ed Brubaker.
Co-written by Refn as well.
Co-written. Well, that makes sense because it feels very Refn. So,
it does, yeah.
So it's Refn and Brubaker writing, him directing. And I guess the first thing to mention here is that we're both fans of his movies.
Yeah.
That's very relevant. First thing I ever saw by him, probably I imagine a lot of people first saw by him was Drive, because it was kind of the more mainstream.
I think I saw Bronson before I did Drive.
Okay.
But I'm probably in the minority on that.
I think I feel like most people who, when I bring up Refn, Drive's the one movie they've seen. Like everything else, they've not seen anything else, but they've seen Drive. And I've seen Only God Forgives, which doesn't get a lot of love on the internet, but I like Only God Forgives.
Only God Forgives is probably my least favorite of his, yet I still really like it.
Neon Demon, I think is great. Bronson's pretty good. Valhalla Rising was pretty great. Hell of a body of work. I've not even seen his I think it was Pusher. Was the he did like 3 Pusher movies back in the day, in his home country. Haven't seen those, so more to discover. But of all the movies I've seen, really liked his stuff. Very hypnotic, very slow pace, very art house, very brooding.
Yeah.
So the thought of a 10-episode show with that style was pretty appealing. It was pretty tempting. It was like, oh hey, and it reminded me a lot of season 3 of Twin Peaks, in the sense that I was just excited for 18 hours of David Lynch, and much like this, I was excited for 10 hours of Nicolas Winding Refn, although actually looking at the runtime of the episodes, it's probably closer to 15 hours, but
12 and a half.
Oh, you counted?
I did. Which, I mean, we should point out, like, an average 10-episode show gets between 8 and 9 hours, is what it adds up to.
Yes.
So this getting 12 and a half is a significant chunk extra on top of that.
I think there's 4 episodes out of 10 that are over 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think one's just under out of the 4. It's
okay.
It's like 88 minutes or something like that. But yeah.
And even all the ones that aren't are all like over an hour. But the exception, of course, of the final episode, which is like 31 minutes.
Yeah,
which is really weird.
That's an epilogue if ever I saw one.
So that's really weird. And the reason why we look at the runtimes is because we haven't scheduled reviews and we're looking at the runtimes.
Yeah, and we're scheduling for like typically 50 to an hour long things, and then oh shit, this is 90 plus. Like the episode 2 is like an hour 37. That is exactly as long as the last movie I watched.
But my eyes lit up when I saw these runtimes because I got more excited. I was like, "Oh, he's not even holding back. This is just going to be full on slow paced Refn."
Because it's funny you mentioned how it felt like Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah.
I think because okay, you got a director, coming to TV. I mean, in Lynch's case, come back to TV, but under different circumstances these days, and it's a case of okay, is it going to be unfiltered, that director, as it was with Lynch and Twin Peaks, or is it going to be more like what was that show the old boy director did like a year or 2 ago?
Oh, with Michael Shannon and
the spy one,
Little Drummer Girl.
That sounds right. Yeah, and it was like, okay, it's good, but I mean, it's not the same, is it? No, all right, P didn't like it,
and I love that director.
Exactly, but what I mean is when they come to TV, it doesn't always necessarily translate, not because of their talent or skill, but more just because of what the network or studio wants.
Yeah. This is definitely unfiltered Refn.
Yeah, 90 seconds into this, I message you going, "Oh, this is full Refn."
Full Refn, and we looked at those runtimes together because it went up at midnight, and we'd planned on maybe doing the first episode like late last night and getting it out of the way. Unfortunately, though, we ran a little bit late, so it wasn't going to happen anyway. But that was assuming it was an hour long. We saw the runtime of the first episode and then checked the rest of them and went, oh shit, this is
serious.
These episodes are huge, some of them. So yeah, so we watched the first episode. This is obviously, I don't think we mentioned it yet, but this is Amazon Prime. This is an Amazon Prime original, this show. Yeah. So all 10 episodes are up. We'll be doing them as quickly as we can, which I think the plan is every other day.
Give or take, yes.
As Connor's unprofessional and...
It's not, it's like, I don't even know why it's going off. There's just making noise. There's nothing there.
I don't care why it's going off.
It wasn't going off. It shouldn't be going off. It's literally not even giving me notifications. It's just buzzing.
I don't care. I don't care why it's going off. I don't care the reason or lack of reason.
It just should behave and just not go off when there's no reason to.
And if someone gives you a text?
Then it's probably worth me seeing it because it might be important at this time.
So... Too Old to Die Young stars Miles Teller, who I don't typically like that much, admittedly, but one of the reasons why I don't typically like him all that much is because he's a really whiny, annoying face. And one of the best things about his character in this is that he has almost no dialogue. He just glares.
And also, he's a terrible person. So that feeling of wanting to punch Miles Teller in the face kind of works.
Yes, he is terrible. Although on the scale of this show, he's actually at the shallow end of terrible.
Yeah, but he's not your typical hero.
No, he's not. We'll get into it in spoilers, but let's just say some of his choices leave a lot to be desired. But you have all these seedy characters. You've got this seedy underbelly. It's very grimy.
Yeah.
It's very grimy. The style's there. It's very slick. There's the synth score. It's a very unique synth score as well.
Yeah, this isn't Cliff Martinez as well, is it? Like I know he's done a lot of his stuff. I'm not sure.
You keep making your point. I'll find.
Okay, because it sounds similar. It's stylistically okay. What I expect from a Refn project, but it's a lot harsher than usual. A lot harder on the synth sounds. They're a lot tighter, and maybe it's just using some different equipment. But it feels like it could be someone different to me.
It's not. It's him.
Is it? Okay. Just some different equipment then. That's cool.
Now there's some key main themes that come in, and even the opening scene, we start on these very, very long introductory shots. In fact, I know even thematically, the opening shot is of a mural that's on a wall, and it's the desert, but there's a lot of cactus and stuff. And then the camera kind of pans over, and we find our characters who are just kind of standing there waiting for whatever. And we establish that there's someone else in a car and down the road who's kind of looking at them. And then we come back to our characters, and we have a little bit of a conversation. It's very one-sided, though, because Miles Teller's not saying shit. Martin, his character,
kind of grunting along.
Yeah, he's just standing there. But just that opening shot, the mural, like, very clearly is saying this is the Wild West. It might look like modern day Los Angeles, but this is the Wild West. That's what that shot's saying. It's very, very clear immediately. And one of the things I like about Refn, one of the things that I think is true of this show, is every single shot in this episode feels important. And what I mean by that is that, you watch a lot of movies and TV, you get used to, and this is not a fault of these, movies and TV shows that I'm about to kind of talk about, this technique. It's just the way movies and TV are typically done, is that, yeah, you've got shots that feel like the money shots, they feel like the important shots, but you have a lot of other, shots in between that just kind of connect it and make it flow like you expect an edited show or movie to flow.
And that can work in its favor because it makes those money shots stand out more.
Very possibly. Arguably, it's more of a technique for, like, the boring shots, if you want to call them that, which, again...
The regular, just standard, by the numbers shots.
And it varies, from depending on who's making what and who the filmmaker is, who the cinematographer is, all these different things. But when you talk about... What I'm talking about here is just what was referred to in the industry as coverage. You get coverage of all the action so that in the edit you can intercut whatever you want between whatever shots to make it work and flow the best in the edit. What this is instead is a very confident style where Refn got onto set knows exactly how he wants to edit this in his mind. basically.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that there's never a change that happens later, or he never like flips things around, because that's still part of filmmaking. It just happens. But it very much feels like he didn't come in and get like a bunch of close-ups of every little action. He didn't come in and get like a bunch of different shots of everything. It feels like, no, he wanted this scene to be these 4 shots, and every single shot as a result feels very, very intentional, very, very composed in a way, because obviously composition is a big part of filmmaking, right? Each shot is composed, and that's always true. But when I talk about the boring interconnected shots just to sort of make up the scene in most entertainment, and again, this is not a slight on those things, that's just something that you feel like you have to have.
They're just composed to a standard rule of this will work.
Yeah, they're there just because the thing has to be cut. Like, I don't imagine that, X director is excited about his close-up of the jar of jam that's coming out the fridge. Like, that's not a shot that, in the grand scheme of the film or the TV episode, they're excited about. It's just there because they need to have that shot of that happening. And every single shot in this feels like it's saying something. Like, it feels like it's what it's choosing when it's choosing to move or not to move. However it's composed its shot, however it's framing the characters and where they're moving in and out of the shot. Every single thing feels very specific, and every single shot feels intentionally chosen for an artistic reason.
There's like sometimes it stands out even more than others. There's a point towards the end of the episode where a character's given a speech, and she references like family members, and on 90% of TV or movies, I would expect it to cut to the family member or whoever they're talking about reacting to being mentioned, because she's looking at them in the crowd. This doesn't. It just stays on her face.
Yeah. And all these choices add up to something. They all add up to exactly what the director wants you to be thinking about during the scene, and leaving some stuff to the imagination and just focusing on the typically very beautiful shot that they've composed that they want to just stay on. They don't want this scene to be a standard cut around all the little things to make that tells the story. They want to tell the story with just the one image.
Yeah.
And have the other parts of the scene happen off camera, or sometimes they'll come onto camera because they'll come into the same frame or whatever. But they want just like the mural, if you will, of Miles Teller standing there with the green light hitting them, or whatever it is. That's just my off the top of my head example. And I feel like compared to other TV shows, you could probably watch this again, count the number of shots in it, and it would probably be about maybe 10% of what a typical, I'll say 90-minute episode of TV would be. Not I wouldn't say an hour, because that's not fair. You have to compare it to something of a similar length.
I would still suspect this has less than a 40-minute episode of most TV.
Oh, sure. Well, I said 10%, so yeah, by that logic, it would be 20% of a 40-minute thing. Yeah. So, so I guess what I'm trying to say here is I really like the direction and the cinematography and how it looks the entire time.
So what you're saying is you're a fan of Refn.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure. Just something I'd forgotten about Refn. This is a sound thing that you may never have noticed, but you might pick up on now. I'm gonna mention it. Is he hates room noise. It's fine whenever it's exterior. You can hear background. There's a lot of wind or crickets chirping. I think there's a lot of in this episode. When they're inside, it feels dead. It's why the silence sticks out so much. When there's just there's no music playing. There's just two characters talking, and there's often long pauses between what they're saying. Yeah, I don't know exactly how it does it. It feels like there's like foam padding, like sound foam on the walls just out of shot, to deaden everything they're saying, and it gives it this really almost ethereal effect that they're not really there, and it gives it and it makes it adds to that hypnotic feel, even when there's when the camera's just sitting there, there's no music, there's nothing else. I think it really adds to that.
I might not have been able to explain it the way you just did, but I definitely noticed the sound design is different in his work. And I'd actually maybe argue just one point there, is that there is at least one scene in this episode, and I can't for the life of me remember what one it is, so it's not going to help my argument. But there's definitely one scene in this episode in an interior where there's intentionally like an intentionally added room noise that's kind of building up throughout the scene.
Yeah.
There is something like that in the episode. It's not always dead, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's not always. Well, it's most of the time. I suspect what it is when they can't pad the set appropriately because of whatever the shot is they're gonna do, then they have to leave the room noise in and work with it that way.
Potentially, I mean, honestly, like as someone who's shot, films and stuff like that in uni and had to like do some post work on them, like, so, dealing with like natural noise, room noise, or exterior noise, it was always kind of like, well, here's how you just add some more so it all matches, because the jarring part is when it cuts and changes and goes up and down the edits. Yeah.
This is what I was actually talking to a guy who actually is a sound recordist about this after I finished watching it, because I was like, I wanted to know if it was just me or not. And no, those times where you can hear it in the background, that's because okay, they couldn't do anything about it. So like you say, they've just added in and played with it into the scene. But any opportunity where they've got to cut it out, they've gone completely dead.
I'm just talking about in a general sense. I'm not talking about specifically about this. That's just typically how sound you deal with it. So to me, the conscious choice where he just wants to have it completely to be dead when there's not speaking in certain scenes actually sounds like a very technical challenge to me, because normally what you do is you can mask it by having more of it and just sort of make it like a natural part of the sound.
Yeah, they're on this instance, I would suspect it's padded if the room can be. If not, it's likely just ADR'd in a dead studio. And
that would be my guess, because there's a lot of wide shots. Refn likes a lot of wide shots that sort of track in and out. So honestly, my guess would be, if I was guessing here, and again, you're the one who's actually got a degree in sound specifically, but my guess would be is that they'll record the sound on the day, obviously, so they can match it later, but the dialogue might just be ADR'd in a lot of these scenes.
Oh yeah, probably. But there's at least one shot that I can one scene I can vividly picture where I can almost see the sound foam on either side of the shot, where it's like, okay, that's where you've got it. I was really getting nerdy watching this.
Oh dear. So we liked it then. I mean, I guess that's pretty obvious from the conversation as it is. It's a very seedy show. None of the characters are particularly likable, but it's a very ethereal sort of dark world that we're in, and you feel like you're in it. It's there's definitely a little bit Only God Forgives in there. There's maybe a smidge of Drive in there. Although I think in Drive, Ryan Gosling's character was definitely a lot more likable and sympathetic, even though he had some extremes in his character.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more like they're giving like him as Miles Teller's the protagonist, Martin's the protagonist of the show, but he's not necessarily likable, especially because at the start I thought he might be. Like I thought he might be the likable one compared to his partner, who we sort of learn very quickly is a bit of a scumbag.
Yeah.
But over the course of the 90-odd minute episode, it keeps adding reasons to why he's not that great. Why there's,
it really does.
There's one big thing in particular that really...
There is, but even aside from that, we just learn the way, some previous actions that him and his partner took.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, he was on board with this the whole time. This is not what we thought.
Yeah, this is different. This is back to being the Wild West. Like, everyone's a scumbag. Everyone's...
Yeah, it's just different degrees of scumbaggery.
Yeah. So characters are not likable, but it's compelling. It's very compelling. And like there's like maybe one or two innocent characters in the whole thing. Everyone else is just completely awful. And it's a thriller. It's just the tense sort of thing where to give the sort of the plot premise without spoilers, it's basically Miles Teller's character is kind of wrapped up with an organized crime boss who deems that Martin Teller's character owes him a favor. So, it's kind of, to compare it to other things, it's something like Thief, or it's something like, even kind of like Drive, where your main character's involved with scumbags and he's now kind of wrapped up and connected to them for good, because if he tries to get out, they're going to hurt people around him and that kind of thing. That's your basic gist of what the show is, at least for what I've seen so far.
So far, yeah.
Who knows what direction it could go in, but
there's like 11 more hours of this yet.
Yeah, and this is the funny thing is that if you just take the core plot of this episode, you could probably tell that story in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, if you really wanted to.
if you really wanted to. But that's not what this show is. This show is about style. This show is about basking in the moments and feeling the build up of everything happening.
Do you know what I'm really excited for? We've spoke a lot about Refn and his stellar direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what Brubaker brings to this, because Refn's never done a project as long as this, in that sense, right? His movies are 2 hours, 2.5 for the most part. This is, like I say, it's 12.5, and okay, there's clearly some serialized nature to it. I think, just judging by the name, the way it's split up in the episodes, the chapters, the titles, it feels like there's some serialization to it as a TV show rather than just an extended movie.
Sure.
And I think that's where Brubaker will really come in, and because that's what he excels at, is especially that crime story over a serialized format, and give it that solid through line that will make sure it doesn't kind of wander off at any point.
I mean, did you feel that this episode is ending? Obviously, we're not in spoilers yet, so no specifics. But did you feel like the ending closed off an arc that made it feel like the end of an episode, end of a chapter, as opposed to just part one of a 10-part movie?
In some ways, I do, yeah.
Well, it's relevant to what you just said, so I'm just curious.
I do think that. I don't. Maybe you disagree, but I think there is at least one clear point where I can say, no, that lines up as being an episode rather than just the opening.
Because I have to admit, up until maybe the actual final scene, like, I don't know if it did feel like an episode. It just felt like the first chunk of a Refn movie, and then the final scene kind of made it feel like, okay, it does kind of feel like it's just set up what the show is.
Yeah.
But for a lot of it, because of the pace is so slow, and it's just it's just scene by scene, kind of drawing us into this world. It just feels like a really long movie in a lot of ways.
Do you know what is funny though, in regards to TV versus movie? There are points where it fades, to cut to the new section, and it almost feels like, oh, that's where your ad break could be on a TV show.
Yeah, but it's Amazon, so they don't have to think about that.
So you don't have they were never thinking about that, but it almost feels like that.
Yeah, but movies do that sometimes. Sometimes a movie will fade to black and go to the new section.
But it was just the way it did it so periodically. It almost felt like it was emulating that. I
don't think that's what it's supposed to be. That it's just a purely stylistic choice of
quite possible.
Because it seems like something Refn would do. Rather than just being because it's so weird. It's like, let's kind of pretend we've got ad breaks and put in some fade to blacks.
Would you really put that past him?
He's done some weird stuff. I don't know if I'd expect that weird out of him. So yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of Refn's movies, this is an easy sell. Just go watch it. If you've never experienced Refn, this is going to be completely new territory for you, and I can't really tell you if you're going to like it or not. I would say if you are a fan of David Lynch, not for the weirder story elements, because that's not what Refn does, but
no, just the direction, the visual storytelling
is a little David Lynch at times. If anything, I would say that this is probably the most David Lynch he's ever been. And there's a couple of key scenes I'm thinking of. I'll just say Stuffed Tiger. That scene was so Lynch to me.
That it really was, yeah.
And I would say if you like some David Lynch, you might find some love in Refn.
If you're here on listening to us now and you enjoyed Twin Peaks, The Return, there's a very good chance you'll enjoy this.
Very similar pacing.
Yeah,
very similar pacing to that actually. So even though we were comparing it earlier on because it felt like, okay, an auteur's coming in and doing like a series. The actual pacing is also very similar. Even though there is definitely differences in direction and differences in a lot of things, there is definitely some overlap a little bit in pacing and
I think there's a lot of overlap in audience.
Probably, I would imagine there is. So mainly just because it means you like art house stuff, you like weird stuff, so you might really get into it. Yeah. If you're someone who liked Drive but hated Only God Forgives, I don't even know what to recommend.
I'd say probably not for you, but I mean, basically, watch the first 20 minutes, you'll know.
Yeah, watch if you don't like the opening 20 minutes, you can probably turn it off and just go.
Yeah.
But if you're into it,
It's notable that Amazon is not really pushing this. It's not on the front
It's not,
page
yeah,
or
it's not on the
anything.
front page, which makes me think they want this for the prestige and maybe to get some awards later, but not.
Yeah, they're not bothered about people actually watching it. They know, okay, people who like Refn will go and watch it.
Even
Everyone else,
even Homecoming, which was definitely lower key, got a lot of front page buzz, probably just because Julia Roberts did it. But then again, Miles Teller's not exactly an unknown guy.
He's pretty recognizable to most people.
I mean, he's a movie guy, right? Like that's the thing with Julia Roberts as well, and it's the thing with a lot of these streaming service movies now is that, or TV shows, is that they're actually nabbing like who we think of as movie actors. So it's actually kind of insane. I mean, maybe they're just being slow at updating their interface and stuff to put it on the front and say, "Hey," but
I mean,
they've got the bar that says Amazon Originals, and Hannah's still there for me. Good Omens is there. A couple of other things are there, and
yeah, like I just think it's just that it's been up a full 24 hours now, and I'm just double checking that it hasn't updated. No, I've got all sorts of things that it's recommending, and this is not there.
Because I went to the second page of the Originals, and I think the tick was there, and I'm like, you've already cancelled that. That's getting better advertising than your new show. So weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, Too Old to Die Young. So yeah, we'll go to spoilers then. So spoilers for episode 1 for volume 1, The Devil. So yeah, let's just go through it. Because I don't even know what else to do with this. So opening is we're introduced to Martin and Larry. Larry being the partner, Martin being Miles Teller's character. And right away, we know someone's watching them. Does this great thing where it goes up to the other POV from the other car, and the synth music's playing. It's all very slow, and it pans down the street to get back to the cop car. And they're both police officers, and Larry gets a text, and it's like a photo from a girlfriend, which it's weird that he shows. He's like, "Hey Martin, look at this," and it's this like selfie looking over her shoulder in the mirror, and she's like butt ass naked, and okay, it's weird that he's showing that. It's a little bit disrespectful, I suppose, but you don't really think anything of it. And then he's like, she keeps showing up at my wife's place, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, okay. So clearly,
what's funny is so they have a phone call in a couple of minutes, and there's a line that that mentions how she's like, I'll bring Martin over. We'll all have some fun. Which kind of retroactively makes him showing the photo kind of okay, because it was almost like she was almost expecting that.
Well, no, because the way I took that is that they weren't talking about being at her place necessarily. Or if they were, her roommate was going to be or whatever. Because she responds with, "No, don't bring him. He's weird," right? Which again then kind of retroactively makes it weird again in the first place, because clearly, okay, she's met Martin, he's brought him along a couple of times to various outings, but she doesn't like him.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes on this still speech, so you're like, okay, right, so he's an adulterer. He's very, like, he goes on and on about how this is bad for his marriage, about his wife taking the kids, and he's like, but I just can't, I can't resist her. I can't resist Amanda. And that's what he ends with. So you get a sense of who his character is to a point. And then we get this extended sequence where they do drive off and they pull over this young woman who ran a red light. Or at least he claims she did. I mean, honestly, given the content of the scene, it wouldn't surprise me if he was lying.
Yeah.
Because it gets the license registration, she gets out of the car, and as Martin's running it, he's like, starts asking her questions. Oh, are you out tonight? And she's like, yeah, with friends. Oh, I bet you had a good time. Yeah, fine looking girl like you. I bet you're fighting them all off. Do you date black guys? Like he keeps saying it, and it gets more and more uncomfortable. And she's in this position where he's in power because he's a cop, and she's just he's like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to hook up? Or she's like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And it's a really uncomfortable scene. It definitely sets up one of the main themes of things that we're playing with. There was definitely like 3 or 4 themes throughout the episode that stuck in my mind. Is okay, we're dealing with sex, and specifically toxic male like points of view of sex. I think to go deeper into it, I would say we're dealing with money and greed.
Obviously, that one.
Well, you say that, but I feel like money specifically like comes up again and again in this episode.
It does. I'm just saying it's a common trope in the when we've got organized crime being played with.
Oh, sure, but this is different from organized crime thing. This is full on art house. This is.
It is.
Every single theme in this episode that's introduced is reiterated like multiple times to make it very clear what the 3 or 4 themes are.
Well, they are, yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Right. And then you've also got, of course, just the idea of murder and the idea of going off the beaten path. Because you know they're cops, but they're clearly into like dodgy shit as well. They're corrupt cops.
Yeah.
So you've got these key themes at play. And then this one actually has a couple of these themes in here, arguably all 3, because it's got them being corrupt, it's got like him flirting with this girl, and I say flirting, it's more harassment, and then ultimately when she doesn't want to have sex with him, he demands she give him money, and she hands over like $400 something, and so that this scene on its own, this second scene in the episode, actually conveys all 3 of these themes on its own. And they let her run along. But I mean, this thing is on for this is a good 5 minutes of just standing staring at her with the occasional line of dialogue.
Yeah, this is so slow paced, like, you know, in that regard.
Every footstep, you know, when Martin goes away and comes back, every footstep away and back, like it's building the pace of the scene. Refn's really good at using the sound effects to really like give it a rhythm.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely meticulous with the pacing of that stuff.
Yeah. And of course, the big sort of thing, because they set up Larry as this main character almost, and then he's killed like in the very next scene. He's taking a selfie for Amanda, and this guy comes up behind him and shoots him in the back, and yells for my mother or something to that effect. Yeah. I mean, actually, got one scene of the villain, the shooter. I'll call him not the villain, but I mean, he's a villain, but this shooter where he's with his uncle.
Uncle, yeah.
And the nephew here, this shooter can't speak much Spanish, but the uncle's like speaking. He's got this monologue in Spanish.
Yeah.
And this was actually one of the first scene that felt really Lynch to me.
Okay.
Because he was talking about having he saw his mother again as a cat, and then she transformed back into a human being, but she had wings like an angel. And it's just him telling the story, but the way we just sat here and listened to him tell it made me think of Twin Peaks. Like I was getting Twin Peaksy vibes from this.
I can see that, yeah.
And you know, it just fades to black. It gets
to like the whole monologue. It's a good like 2 or 3 minutes, and then he's just like, I don't really speak much Spanish.
I do have to wonder if there's going to be a redemption story in this. Is that what we're building to? Well, that's a good question. Does Martin get to a point where he wants to actually redeem himself for everything that he's done?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if, like, with Drive, because Drive is very much a story of someone who ultimately wants to be better than what he is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Is this almost like doing Drive, but starting like earlier in the story where he's actually just getting into it and he's, you know, full on?
Yeah, it could be. Like I say, this is what, 4 times the length of Drive, give or take?
More than 4. If it's 12.5 hours long, it's like 6 times the length. Drive's only like 2 hours long.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it was longer. Do you know why it was? Because the last time I watched it, I was crazy ill with the flu, and it felt like it went on even longer than, you know, all those long shots seemed to last forever when I had the flu and I watched it. It felt like more like it was like 3 hours. So
this is kind of the insane, and this isn't, you know, it's the Larry getting shot kind of propels everything else. But we find out quite quickly after that Martin, while Larry seems to have been maybe more at the forefront where he was actually whacking people, including this mother, that you know that this was the revenge for.
So it seems.
So let's say, I mean, Martin could be lying, I suppose.
Yeah.
But given that he seems to, I mean, I suppose he's feeling, maybe he could be feeling guilty, and that's why he's struggling to kill someone else later in the episode. But just given that he seems very hesitant and trying to wiggle his way out of it.
I mean, I think given, you know, so he talks to the mob boss and he's like,
Damien,
yeah. And he says, you know, oh, it was, you know, Larry's the one that killed her, not me, so I'm fine. And Damon's like, well, that's not what Larry told us. He says you did it, so, you know, maybe you should watch out. And then he talks about how you weren't meant to kill anyone anyway. You know, you were just supposed to be in and out. It's a job gone wrong. So it makes me wonder whether it wasn't necessarily, you say, oh, he didn't want to kill anyone, hesitation at the end there. Maybe he didn't mean to kill her in the first place.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It was a mistake, and now he is feeling guilty, which is why he's lying about it, trying to almost convince himself, oh, it's Larry, it was him. He's dead now, so there's no one to even argue. It's fine.
No, okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That may be the case. Even this build up to this scene, though, he's got there's like a waiting room almost. They're like an ice rink, and there's like a waiting room, and this other guy like gets seen to first, and then he's made to crawl out and slap himself from the henchman dude, and so we have this set up, and Martin's told that he's going to have to do something for them to sort of pay off this nuisance, this problem that he's caused by having all this go on. Because obviously the selfie that Larry took has the photo of the guy who killed him on it, but he keeps that a secret from the police and shows it to Damien instead. And Damien's like, you're going to take care of this guy. And at first they want him to frame him, and if not, then kill him. And he takes so long to deal with it, and because we have a lot of plot with them for a good chunk of the episode, and then Damien and that show back up and say, hey, you've not done this yet. Framing's not going to work. You only have to kill him. Here's an unmarked gun. You're going to have to do this, and that becomes a scene. In the meantime, though, we learn another big part of his character, and that is his love life, his girlfriend. Yes. He picks up this young girl, a bit young. I'm talking 17 here, from school, and it's kind of
she's there smoking. At first, he's like, "Hey, you shouldn't. You're not allowed to smoke there."
Yeah, and it's kind of this passive aggressive thing, and she gets in the back seat of the car, the cop car, without even really being asked. And then he says, "I've only got a couple hours," and then you kind of get where it's going from here.
Yeah.
And again, this scene, it's very well paced. The synth music's playing, and we get back to his place. And this was one of the directorial touches that I really noticed. It's hard not to notice it. Is that they end up having this conversation about her telling her father about their relationship, and how he's like, but you're 17, I could get into trouble. You can't just tell your father this. Are you crazy? And he ends
goes,
up,
why'd you do that? And she goes, oh, it's because I wanted to.
And he ends up having this big scene talking to her about this, and the entire time there's an American flag behind his head, and it's like perfectly framed around his head.
Yeah.
And it
wasn't subtle, was it?
It's not subtle. It's very blatant. And
it's such a sparsely decorated room as well, so the flag sticks out even when it's not the close-up.
Oh yeah, the rest of it's like grey and beige. There's like nothing else colourful in the room at all. It's just the flag. And I think there's obviously a very cynical message here about the US as he's giving this speech about dating an underage girl with the American flag behind him. I don't think it takes a genius to crack the code here about maybe where the country's priorities might lie in the wrong places. So so she's like, no, you're coming over for dinner on Friday, and
he's like, right, okay.
And I was like, why just Mills tell her, because this has to be awkward. And it's actually, I don't know if he's actually 30, but the dad calls him 30 like in the scene, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, give or take, right?
He's my age.
I could believe a couple of years either way, but sure, about 30.
Imagine going to your 17-year-old's parents' house for dinner. Your 17-year-old boyfriend or girlfriend.
Very eccentric. I said year or two either way. He's 32.
There you go. So we have this scene of sitting there, and the dad's this very weird character. He's constantly like kind of like choking and like clearing his throat and like sort of sniffling.
Yeah, so this is one of the Baldwins as well.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a tick going, and yeah, I think this is the Baldwin that was in that terrible Christmas movie, the Christian like finance one.
Oh, the one that you keep telling me about.
Yeah, Christmas with a capital C. I think that was the Baldwin.
I'm gonna click on him and see.
Is it Christmas with a capital C Baldwin? The best of the Baldwins.
It's like a Christmas trade.
Oh no, I won't.
And then that's the only Christmas that shows up when I search it on his IMDb. Wrong Baldwin.
How many Baldwins? God damn it!
There's like 4 of them, isn't there? There's the 4 brothers.
Too many Baldwins.
Yeah, there really is.
Too many Baldwins. But he's this over the top character, and he's constantly dropping these very passive aggressive comments about him being too old, and she and this is Janie, the girlfriend's name is. She's constantly like said, you always taught me to make my own choices, Dad, even if you don't like them, and be honest about them. It's like yes. And he's kind of like, and I guess this is again where the theme of money comes into it, is that the dad's constantly trying to rub his wealth in his face. He's like, oh, you're just a cop. You don't have any other aspirations. Look at my painting. This is worth thousands and thousands.
Even just Martin makes a comment like, hey, it's a nice place you got here. And he kind of tries at first. He's like, oh yeah, I just kind of got lucky. And he's like, and he turns it around and he's like, so have you got any real estate? And it's like, right, immediately just trying to judge him on it.
Yeah. I love the idea of someone asking me if I have real estate as if to put me down. I'm like, of course I don't have real estate. What do I look like?
In this economy?
I don't know if you've noticed this, but you're the baby boomer and I'm the millennial. You had ruined everything for us, so piss off, you prick. Oh, anyway. So yeah, and he ends up having this scene alone with the dad, and what I think is her bedroom with all stuffed animals.
It seems to be, yeah.
And there's this weird moment where the dad just picks up this stuffed tiger, puts it in front of his face, and starts going. He makes tiger noises, and what I love is he does this behind Martin's back, and Martin just kind of slowly turns it around when he hears this, just very slowly, very steady movement, just to see what's going on behind him.
I love that this progresses throughout the whole, like the remainder of the scene, and Martin sat down opposite him at one point now in a chair, and he's got a tiger on his lap that he's just kind of stroking.
Well, no, because the dad hands him the tiger he had originally.
And he picks up the white one. Yeah, but every so often he kind of just leaves that tiger on his lap. Every so often he just strokes it.
And then he's like, he's trying to get him to do it as well. He's like, oh, give me, come on. There's this grill at each other. Come on, let's do some growling. Yeah. And again, I think thematically this scene again ties into obviously the wealth and the dick measuring, but the idea that again this is this like combat. There's this desperate need to show that you're more worthy, and that'll tie into the gang stuff because ultimately it's all about being the biggest and the richest and the most powerful, and the idea of power, the thirst of power, tie into the Wild West. And naturally all of the female characters don't really have great roles in this system because it's this flawed, awful system where they're not treated as equals.
Yeah,
all of this is
the ending of this scene though cracked me up because he's like, have a bat by midnight. And he's just like, yep, I'll do. And, long, awkward pause. He's like, I'm just kidding. Just make sure you take it to school in the morning.
Can you imagine any father saying, yeah, you keep my daughter out all night, just make sure she gets to school in the morning? Can you imagine?
And then he semi-dances out of the room.
Yeah, we literally end the shot. He's
a
in
shuffle and a click, and then he turns around. Yeah.
No, we literally end the shot with and we end the scene with a shot of him in the door frame, and he's in silhouette at this point because he's walked into the light, and he's got his arms up, kind of like that, and it's just a sort of like silhouette dance pose.
He's turned back to face it, hasn't he, to do that? Yeah. It's just, I was in stitches at this point.
Funny enough, it actually. I hate to keep comparing it to Lynch, but there's one sort of element of this that kind of makes me think of Mulholland Drive a little bit. The idea that this idea of like coming to LA for fame. Now, obviously, that this show is not about the Hollywood dream. It's not about that. We're not talking about anything like that. But it's making me think of that a little bit in the sense that this idea of coming to LA and LA being this pursuit of wealth and power. And it's almost like if Mulholland Drive was the female side of the equation where actresses come to LA, and it's not just women, obviously, men do it as well, but the idea is the Hollywood dream is that movie.
The allure of it, yeah.
This is the seedier, like, Wild West side of it, where the men are trying to, like, feel powerful because they don't inherently feel powerful by default, so they're determined to prove their power and steal it and so on and so on.
I can see the comparison.
So
I feel like we're going to compare this to Lynch a lot.
Probably more than we should, but like I think there's nothing. I think it's because Lynch specifically made the Twin Peaks season 3, which is definitely the most unique TV show I've ever goddamn seen, and nothing else I can even think of with this I can compare it to. Like,
no, I mean, like we've had some unique TV over the last couple. You said Twin Peaks. Homecoming was pretty damn unique.
it was that was trying to be a Brian De Palma movie from the 80s, and it succeeded very well actually.
It was excellent. And then this is it's closer to Twin Peaks than Homecoming, and it feels less unique because of that, because there's something I can go, oh, it feels sort of like that, but it's still very much its own beast.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when he's taking Amanda back to his place that Damien's henchman shows up, and he has to go and have a chat. Gets roughed up a little bit, and he's given the gun, and he's told he has to go do this. So we get this extended, very beautifully paced scene of him, and it's very hypnotic. And a lot of this show is hypnotic, but he's sneaking in, he's got his gun out, and he's like sort of creeping down. It's like a
should mention he abandons Janie out on the street.
Yeah. She gets mad at him for not really telling her anything, and she's like, "I'm waiting for my dad to come and pick me up," and he's like, "What are you, a kid?" And I'm like, "Yes, she kind of is actually, Martin, just for the record."
Yeah, and then as she's walking off, she's like, "Oh, by the way, you've been screwing me since I was 16," and then don't follow me.
Yeah. So she's seemingly. I mean, maybe she does call her dad like round the corner or something like that. But it looks like she's walking home.
It does, doesn't it?
I presume she does call for assistance when she's out of sight. But
yeah.
But yeah, he goes and he's like sneaking around. It's like a kind of auto repair shop. It's big. There's a lot of racks and stuff, and he's kind of sneaking around one of them. And the guy he's there to kill is actually sort of naked. He's just sort of like sitting there naked. And the reveal of him being there is, again, the synth comes in, and we get this sort of
this red light.
We get this struggling fight scene of like them struggling for the gun as he's trying to kill him, and he does actually eventually win and then shoots him, and that's it. And intermittently with all this, we've also had him talking to his police captain, who has been very nice to him and sort of told him, no, you need
pretty understanding. It's like, hey, you kind of just saw your partner get killed,
Yeah, you need to be at the memorial service. And this is where I'm not actually sure if the family was at the memorial thing, because it didn't look like it. To me, it looked like it was just a lot of cops who were around a big table, because this was a very weird scene in the sense of the location, because it was like a... just imagine the table, with Jesus and the disciples, the Last Supper, right? It's like that sort of table with the big chairs all around it. And the captain's at the end of the table, making this speech about, respecting him and honouring his memory and donating for his family for the widow and orphans fund. And I'm like, where are everyone else that would be at memorial service?
It was every time, she said, because, before we've seen the rest of the room, we're just on her face.
Yeah.
And she's still like, she goes, oh, I got to know Larry over the years. I got to know his family, his wife, and she looks over as if she's looking at them.
No, there's definitely no kids there. There's absolutely no kids in that scene.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it absolutely looks like she's looking over at them when she says that.
Once you see a full thing of them, I think it's just a cop thing. This is just like all the cops getting together who knew him to have their own kind of private thing.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't think it's the actual memorial service where all the family and all that's going to. So, yeah. And it ultimately... So the other subplot that we've kind of not talked about that kind of leads to the ending is that Amanda, the girl that Larry was seeing, shows up and is like, hey, Larry told me what you guys did, and I want his money, his half of the score. And Martin's like, I don't know what he did with his half. How can I get that? Like, I don't have that. Yeah. It's like, well... What's it worth to you to keep me quiet? Because I'll tell everyone. I'll go and...
like, are you trying to blackmail a cop? She's like, yeah. He's like, God damn it, I'm fine.
And she's like, I want 10 grand. And he's like, I don't have 10 grand to give. He's like, 7 then. He's like, I can give you 2.
She's like, and she really thinks about it. She goes, I'll take it.
Yeah, and we know that she's on drugs. We've been seeing her snort cocaine like constantly, so she's clearly just an addict who, once her next several scores covered. So he's like, I can't give it to you now, because obviously he's not carrying this on him. He's like, I need to go to a bank. So he shows up. Some of the plots happened. He shows up at her place. Her roommate's just as high as she is. And she's like, all right, okay, give me the money. And she counts it. She's like, there's only 1,700 here. And he's like,
so 1,750.
He's like, well, that's all I can afford. That's what you get. And
this is what she says. You're just like Larry, always pretending you're poor. Which I thought was interesting.
Maybe it contrasts nicely with the idea of the power. It's like, I mean, you could read into it specifically about how they communicate with women rather than like a over a broad thing, or you could read into it as they don't want to be powerful until they know they can defend it. So they actually kind of downplay how wealthy they are up until a point, kind of thing. Because I mean, as we've seen, she's trying to extort them. She's trying.
It does make because I mean. Something the police captain says implies they get paid pretty well because she's asking them to donate. She goes, "Hey, don't forget, I know how much you can afford. I sign your paychecks," which implies they get a reasonable pay, and then plus whatever he's making on top of this. But his apartment is basically empty. There's nothing in it. What's he doing with all his money?
That American flag was an expensive flag. He got it custom made.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Weaved with gold fibers. He saved up for it.
Sure.
But as he's going to leave, she's like, "Oh, do you want to hook up?" Just out of nowhere, and he's like, "No, not really."
No.
So you don't want to have sex with me? And he's like, "No," and he walks out.
He does think about it for a second first.
Now, I don't know if you're mistaken thinking about it with just the natural pause that Refn has in all of his scenes.
No, because I felt this one was more on his face. Because there's other ones where absolutely, it's not thinking. This one, it felt like he was actually contemplating whether or not he did, whether or not he did want to and was just saying no anyway, or if he was just like, no.
Okay. Well, she's a very broken character, obviously, and she's very much collateral just in the story because she basically he's called in again at the end by Damien, and we come into a room and we find that she's actually handcuffed to like a pole, and it's like the bar you get in like a ballet studio, or dance studio. You get the bar at the mirror, and she's handcuffed to that, and she's been beaten up. She's all bloody. There's blood all over the windows.
She looks barely alive.
And again, it's just the idea where the scene is so devoid of color, other than the red on her face and on the mirror. The red really sticks out in the scene.
It does.
And Damien's like, she ratted you out to the Mexicans, so now they know, or at least they think, they know exactly what happened with you and this mother that you killed, and maybe even this guy that we got you to kill after that. So as a result, they're going to be looking for you, and we're going to look into it. But now that you work for me, implying that this wasn't a one-time thing. Now he's entwined with them, and the thing is here though is that he's like, well, now that you know what she's done, what do you want to do about it? And they hand him a gun.
Yeah, because at first he asks, "Oh, what are you going to do with her?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I've got lots of men who hate women." And, implying, but he gives him the choice first. It's like, okay, but you get first dibs, kind of.
Yeah. And he should, sir. I mean, we don't see it, but because he's surrounded by all these men, I'm going to have a hard time believing that he didn't shoot her in that scene. It's like, given the witnesses, he would have went through with it. And we end the episode with him coming outside. Music's kind of ramping up, and he actually texts Janice just saying, "I miss you," and she sends a photo back, and it's almost like,
it feels very reminiscent of the opening, doesn't it, with Larry and his girlfriend with the pictures. Yeah,
well, that was kind of my thought in this scene. It was basically that he's kind of become what Larry was when he died. Like he's at that point now. Like if you want, I do believe he wasn't quite there yet. Like he wasn't in the same place as Larry at the start of the episode. But I think by the end of the episode, he's literally taken his job, because it feels like Larry was more directly employed with Damien.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And now Martin's taken his place, and I think this at the end though, he's not upset about it. I think he's kind of renewed. It feels like he's
feels comfortable.
He's killed his second person. Maybe he's even got a taste for it now, and it's made him basically horny. Like it's made him like, no, hey, I know I want to see, Janie again, because and I feel like it's this idea of that his libido, his ego has been filled, and he feels like he's getting power. He feels like nothing can stop him now. A false sense.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, obviously it's a very dark series. It's definitely a series where, Janie, even in this episode, they threaten to kill her if he doesn't kill the guy that they want him to, like halfway through. And it's definitely a show that does not have, how do I put this? A female character who's not there to serve the plot. And I'm not critiquing it for that necessarily, because I think it's very clear what this show is supposed to be. it's supposed to be this dark, seedy thing with all these characters. But I think it's worth pointing out that this is definitely the focus of the show, and it's not like this is not going to get any feminist awards come end of the year.
At least not what we've seen, because I know Jena Malone's in there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I
so there are characters yet to be introduced.
I'm saying that based on episode 1. I mean, who knows what the next 9 will bring me, but based on episode 1, like, you know, like Janie is essentially the she's not quite a damsel yet, but that was kind of how she was used in the sense that she was threatened, right? Yeah. And it's sort of a crutch that the main character's leaning on, and then Amanda's just a complete mess. She's a complete wreck. Who's
oh, absolutely,
who basically fulfills her life by manipulating a man to give her what she needs, and that is kind of her character. So it would be, I hope actually I do hope Jena Malone actually comes in and kind of mixes this up and kind of.
I think it's possible with someone like her cast.
Yeah.
Which would be refreshing.
But at the same time, the show is not trying to make any of these characters feel like they're good people, because they're not. They're all awful. They're all terrible.
Oh, yeah, they're all terrible. Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, Martin becomes more terrible as the episode goes on.
I mean, Janie, I suppose by default is kind of the least terrible. I mean, ultimately, all she really is a teenage girl who's making a really dumb choice with her, dating life.
Her father's pretty terrible.
Her father is pretty terrible. Yeah, he's a weird character. And again, it's this idea that he doesn't. I mean, does he really care about his daughter, or is it just more of like a status thing? Because ultimately he's like, just make sure she's in school tomorrow. Like that's kind of where he ends up.
Yeah, kind of is.
I think the male characters, their treatment of women is going to be a big theme in this show, and how.
I'm sure it is, yeah. Which is why we might get a stronger character, maybe Jena Malone, to come in and kind of shine a light on that.
I hope we do. I hope someone challenges them and shakes things up, because even the mother that was killed, like the inciting like pre-show incident that sort of is unraveling all this. Again, it was about a woman who was killed. And all the men are fighting over them essentially. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what it says about this and how it plays with this. But I mean, definitely power. I mean, everything's toxic, but it's intentionally toxic. It's like all these characters are toxic in their beliefs and what they need to.
It's not justifying any of them. It's not making us sympathize with them. It's showing us, no, these are terrible people.
No, I mean the most likable character in the entire thing is the girl that's pulled over at the start, because she's completely innocent and you're terrified for her. You're not sympathizing with the cops. You're terrified of what these cops might do to her. And
exactly, and this is, like I said, this is the opening of the episode, and these are supposed to be our protagonists.
Yeah, and the thing about that opening scene as well is that we don't even know how bad they are yet. Like literally every time Larry says something worse, this is like
worse.
It's a new level of what we know he's willing to go to. So, and what I mean by that is that we don't actually know how far they are going to go. Like, do they rape people? Like, I didn't know if this scene was going to end with that.
No, we didn't know.
And the fact that I was considering that the protagonist police officers were maybe going to do that in that scene was a sign of like, okay, we are dealing with absolute awful people, and it has that steady feeling to it the entire time.
Definitely,
yeah. So if there is some sort of redemption act to this, if let's say Martin gets to a point where he becomes more self-aware of his position and the people around him, does he try to be something else? Does that take the fridging of Janie to do that? I don't know, but we'll see.
Like you said, this feels like it could be Drive just earlier in the story. Like we could get to episode 6 and we get to that story now for all we know.
Yeah, I might not go with the exact same, but yeah, like
no, but in that arc is what I meant.
Yeah,
that part of that character's life. We're just too early right now, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's a comparison that I'm happy to make, but like, if I was going to go deeper into it, I would say that they're not really that similar in the sense that Ryan Gosling's character in Drive, who I'm saying that way because I think he's just titled the driver in the credits, if I remember. Yeah. He, like, I always got the impression with him that he for the most part did what he did because he was good at it, and that he liked to drive. Like it was kind of his life's calling as opposed to actually being drawn to the seedier things and the power.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas here it's like, no, I think Martin's getting a taste for feeling more powerful.
Yeah. It's why you asked, does it feel like an episode? I think when you get to that moment where he chooses to shoot her at the end,
Yeah,
I think that's what it does.
He's not forced to do it. He chooses to do it.
Yeah, when he makes that choice, and that's kind of the ending of the episode, it's like, okay, no, that does feel like an episode to me. That feels like a natural closing point of an arc.
Credit to it as well, because I think both Larry, it felt like he was being set up as a main character. He was dead within 20 minutes. And then Amanda, I felt like was been set up to be a character who was reoccurring, was dead by the end of the episode. Like, it's done a pretty good job so far of making characters who may or may not be important
feel real enough.
Yeah.
That when they're killed, it's a surprise because it's unconventional for TV.
Yeah, so that's neat. That's very neat. So, yeah, there you go. That's episode 1.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. We really liked it. We've been looking forward to this for a while, though, haven't we?
We have. Oozing stale. That is my final thought on it. Admittedly, though, maybe not enough graphite, but I mean that's
no, but there is plenty of neon.
Plenty of neon. Not enough graphite, but plenty of neon. All right, so that was episode 1. We will be back with episode 2. Should be day after tomorrow, so look forward to that. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you get bonuses, extras, you get some stuff early. And then one of the things you can do as well at one of the higher tiers, you can actually sponsor one of the TV shows that we do, one of the TV review series that we do. And you can do all stuff like that. But go have a look. And as far as just promoting some other things that we review right now, just in case you're interested and want to go check them out, we just started doing season 3 of The Handmaid's Tale. That'll be on the same audio feed as this. You can check that, as well Big Little Lies, which I'm doing with Tara, so you can go check out those. And then if you switch over to the Netflix audio review feed, which again, if you get all the links to all these feeds if you're having trouble finding them on the Patreon page, patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a nice handy list of all of them at the top. But over on the Netflix feed, starting next week will be Dark Season 2, and then a couple of weeks after that will be Stranger Things Season 3. So,
Lots of content.
A lot of TV reviews coming. So yeah, thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. And we mentioned Twin Peaks a lot in this, so just worth mentioning, we did review the entirety of Twin Peaks. We watched season 1 and 2 once or twice per week on the lead up to the new season. We watched the movie as well, of course, and then reviewed the new show, or the new season, like every week as it was coming out in 2017. So the entire Twin Peaks saga from episode 1 all the way up to the end of The Return was reviewed, and very in-depthly. we went long on some of those. That was a
damn good year, wasn't it?
That was a great year for our discussing a TV show. So check out that too. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?